One thing that shocked me when I first got to Spain is that the Spaniards have very little personal space. I remember you would go and talk to a stranger and they would grab you by the back of your neck and they would bring you in so that you're staring nose to nose. And that, for a while, as you would start to talk to someone, they would, creep closer and closer to you. And I remember just slowly inching back. Only the wealthy people have homes that are separate. So everything in Spain is all apartments. Everything's built up. And so I think they're used to not having personal space. And so it's totally normal and totally natural for them to be right up in your face right there and talking to you. And I remember when I got home that I realized that I had developed that habit myself, that when I went to talk to someone, I would get up right close in their face, and I noticed that they would kind of slowly inch back. Everything in Spain is built kind of in these tightly compacted cities. So you don't necessarily even need a car to get around. You walk to get your groceries. Everybody has these little half suitcase things that they take to the grocery store, and they fill their suitcases with all their groceries, and then they just walk them home. Unless you need to go to a mall or something, then you can pretty much get to any and everything all from your apartment. Spaniards, I loved the public transportation system in Spain. It's incredible. It's very well organized. You could get literally anywhere you wanted to go via train or via bus. It was so well organized. They have a bullet train. They have a speed train there, the AVE, that would go 180 miles an hour. And so when we would have to go to Madrid, we could either take a 3-hour bus or we could take a 1-hour train ride. And so I feel like the transportation, even though some things they used propane and not everybody had computers and internet in their home, I feel like from a transportation aspect, they were on top of it. Spaniards love their olives and their olive oil. There's beautiful olive tree fields everywhere. If you take a train somewhere, you'll see a big, beautiful olive tree field. And I talked to a man one time and he would say, I don't go to bed without my spoonful of olive oil. And that was like his equivalent of ice cream for me. It's like I eat my ice cream and then I go to bed, but he would eat his olive oil and go to bed. And in Segovia, there was one time I remember we were walking down the street and we could hear kind of a faint bell, almost like a jingle bell that was ringing off in the distance. We couldn't really tell what it was, and as we kept walking around this hillside, we saw a couple of sheep that were walking. And as we got closer and closer, we realized that these sheep, they all had their bells around their neck. And as we kept walking, just more and more sheep came, and then there was a shepherd. And it was one of those other times that I felt like it just took me back in the past. Here was this shepherd walking his sheep on this hillside in Spain, and I thought, this is incredible. And he had his staff and he had his, his tunic, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Just a really cool cultural experience for me. You know what, I think Alcalá is probably one of my most vivid memories. Alcalá has the old cobblestone paved roads. At the university they have the bell that rings at every hour, and they have the big storks that have built nests on top of the university, and you just feel like you're walking back in history. And I remember doing that, walking down the streets thinking, this street and this building is older than my whole country. And it was surreal. It was just an awesome experience. I remember when I first got to Spain, at the time I wasn't a huge soccer fan. And I remember on Saturdays we would go and play soccer with some of the youth. And I remember I considered myself an athletic person. I played basketball in high school, and I could keep my feet under me. But in Spain, I would have a little 10-year-old boy that would just come and run circles around me with a soccer ball. And it was so frustrating for me because I thought, I'm athletic, and how are these little 10-year-old boys running circles around me? But soccer is religion in Spain. I mean, they love, love, love soccer. If there was a big soccer game going on, you couldn't go and knock doors. You couldn't talk to people. Everybody was in a bar. I think this is a reflection of the people of Spain, but if you knocked on a door during a big soccer game, they would tell you, one, no, we're not interested, but would you like to come in and watch the soccer game with us? And I remember thinking that the people were so incredibly hospitable. They were a little bit closed to the religion, but they would let you in their home as a complete stranger to watch a soccer game with them. So I would say that Segovia is probably my other kind of favorite city in Spain. It has a big aqueduct, it has a cathedral, it has a castle, and it's just kind of what I envision old Roman European city to be. It's just, the aqueduct is incredible, and we would walk by it every day. And every day I would walk by it, I would think, oh, we're walking by this huge Roman aqueduct. That's all still intact, and it's incredible to be an American living in somewhere abroad like that, in such a beautiful place that has so much history to it. When I was in Madrid, the March 11th bombings actually happened, and I was serving in Segovia at the time, and it was actually a train that was going from Alcalá to Madrid. And I remember being super worried. I learned later that a family that I was really close with, that he was on the train right after the one that was bombed. So that was kind of a scary experience. Spain has kind of an interesting political mix. So there's Barcelona, which they've outlawed bullfighting, which is such a part of the culture of Spain. They've done bullfights forever. So those are still allowed in Madrid, but Barcelona has banned them. There's a couple things. They're very family-centered. A lot of the times as we would walk around, you see families everywhere. They're all walking, holding hands. They love their families, and families are so close there. Another thing that kind of took me off guard is that a lot of the times these families, to hang out, they would go to a bar. They would go to a bar and watch a soccer game, and mom and dad would get a drink, and they would order a little tortilla de patata, which is a Spanish meal. And I remember walking down the street and seeing all these parents with their little kids in bars, and I thought, gosh, that seems a little strange, but it's just part of the culture. It's part of the Spanish culture, who they are. They walk around as families, and they go to their bar, and they'll watch the soccer game, or they'll get dinner there, and it's totally normal. It's just part of the culture and who they are.